Hey everybody, this is Jeff with Nintendo Games Now, and I'm here to talk a little bit about Nintendo's E3 digital event that they had yesterday on June 16th. And as you probably noticed by now, if you've looked into it at all, the reaction to it was not very good, to say the least. I mean, I know me myself, I was very disappointed with it. They showed a lot of stuff that I think most Nintendo fans didn't really care about, and they weren't really interested in, and they had hardly anything for Wii U. The only stuff, well, not the only stuff, but most of the stuff that they showed for Wii U we already knew about. And I'll get into that in a little more detail in a little bit, but the way they started off, they started with Star Fox for Wii U, which has been renamed Star Fox Zero, and it looks cool and all, but we already knew about it. They teased it at last year's E3, and it was nice, to see another trailer and footage and get a little bit more info about it. But even so, we already knew about it, so it wasn't really that big of a surprise to get more info about it. Though it was, like I said, cool to see more about it and everything. What I don't understand about it is why they're saying it's not a remake, it's not a sequel, it's not a prequel. Well, then what the hell is it? It has to be one of those, unless they're rebooting the whole franchise, which I guess that's the one thing they didn't say. As far as I know, they did not say it's not a reboot. They said it's not a remake, they said it's not a prequel, they said it's not a sequel. So maybe it's a reboot. I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see. Next thing they talked about was Skylanders, and they had somebody from Activision on there, I believe, that was talking to Reggie. And apparently they're going to have Skylanders figures that also have amiibo functionality, and these are going to be using Nintendo characters, and the first two are Donkey Kong and Bowser. And the way it works, he has a little base on it that you can switch, kind of like, twist it, that sort of thing like that. And depending on which way you orient it, I guess will determine whether it works in Skylanders or on the Wii U gamepad or on the new 3DS as an amiibo. And they also come with little vehicles, because that's part of the Skylanders game, Superchargers. It's going to have vehicle stuff in it, apparently. And I don't know if they're going to do other characters or not, or it's just these two or what, but I imagine they probably are going to cost a little bit more money than the standard $12.99 for amiibos, since they have more stuff with them. And I'd probably get them because, I like amiibo and all that. I'm a collector myself, but other than that, I don't really care about Skylanders. It doesn't interest me. Of course, I'm probably not the target demographic for that type of game, but even so, and that's what E3 is about. It's about, showing off new games for video game fans and the media. It's not about showing off games for little kids who most likely aren't even able to watch it to begin with. So why do we need to spend 10-15 minutes on Skylanders? Especially since it's a third-party game. This is Nintendo's event, not a general event. And Nintendo, one thing they've always been known for is their first-party software. Now, yes, it's important to have third parties, but that was pretty much the only third-party game that's not being published by them that they even talked about during the whole event. So, what was the point of even mentioning it? Other than the fact that it has, some amiibo capabilities. That was the only reason to bring it up, I guess. But moving on, they moved on to Zelda, and unfortunately they did not talk about Zelda U, unless they had a closed doors briefing or something like that for media only, maybe, I don't know. But I haven't heard anything of that sort so far. Who knows, maybe they will, maybe they won't. But they had announced ahead of time they weren't going to show footage of Zelda U or anything, but they could have, talked about it briefly. They could have had an interview with Aonuma and Miyamoto, but did they? No, of course not. Why would they do that? That would make too much sense. Instead, we got a new Zelda game for the 3DS called The Legend of Zelda Triforce Heroes. And basically, this is 4 swords in a slightly different setting with 3 links instead of 4. Why they didn't just call it another 4 swords game, or just, stick with 4, I don't know, but I guess the 3 was because of Triforce, 3 means 3, so maybe that's why they did it. But one of the main mechanics in the game is this totem mechanic where you can stack up all 3 links together in a totem or pillar type of format, and you have to use that to solve puzzles and defeat bosses and that sort of thing. And supposedly, from what they said, that 4 would be too big to fit on the screen or something like that. I don't know if that's really the case or not, or they just wanted to do 3, but anyways, I mean, I'm sure it will be fun and all that because it's Zelda, but it wasn't really what people were looking for. They wanted Zelda U. They didn't want this. And it's nice and all, and it'll be something that'll kind of tide you over till Zelda U is ready, but again, this is a theme that's going to go on throughout this video I'm doing. A lot of stuff that people didn't want or didn't expect and are not really interested in. And you'll see in a little bit when we get there. Another thing that is in this game are changeable costumes, where Link can put on different costumes to gain new abilities. Like there's one for a big bomb suit, and another one that was like a lucky suit or something, where I guess it lets you avoid damage in random times or something. I'm not really sure how exactly that works. But we don't want, fashion stuff in Zelda. What is this? This is not style savvy. Why do we need fashion stuff in Zelda? Why can't they just be items? I mean, yeah, it kind of works similar to the mask in Majora's Mask, but at least that made sense because there was already that established in Ocarina of Time with the Happy Mask salesman. The outfits and stuff, the only thing close to that is in the Zelda history are the tunics in previous games. But these are not tunics, these are just random outfits. It's strange. I don't get why they did that. But, anyways. Speaking of Zelda, they talked about another Zelda game, which was leaked before E3, so we already knew about it, and that is Hyrule Warriors is coming to the 3DS, and it's been titled Hyrule Warriors Legends. And personally, I already own the game on the Wii U, and I've already played it, and I already own all the DLC, so what's the point of someone like me buying this game again? I mean, it's like the same thing they did a few years back with Ocarina of Time 3D. If you already play the game, then there's really no point to buy it again. Unless, you're a super hardcore fan that has to buy every version of the game. And as far as I know, in Hyrule Warriors Legends, the only thing that they're adding is a couple new characters. They haven't announced anything else that I'm aware of. I mean, maybe they'll put in some new missions or a new difficulty or something, I don't know, but as of right now, the only thing that's in there is, Tetra and the King of Red Lions, the King of Hyrule, as playable characters. And that's nice and all, but that could have been DLC. There's no reason to have a brand new game just to do that. And yeah, you can play it, on a portable system and take it with you, but again, if you've already played it, what's the point? It's a fun game and all, but I've already played it. I want new games. I don't want, stuff that I've already played. I'm tired of all the remakes and remasters and reboots and all that. Just give me new stuff. And not spin-offs like Triforce Heroes, new main entries in the series. Why is it so difficult? I don't understand. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a little while here with the next game. So basically, like I said, there's little reason for me to even be interested in this game, Hyrule Warriors Legends. And if you already own all the DLC in the Wii U version, then you're probably in the same boat as me. But if you haven't played it, it's a fun game. I mean, it does have some Zelda elements in it, but it definitely plays, more like a Warriors-style game than a Zelda-style game. And that's to be expected since it was Koei Tecmo that, developed it. And speaking of spin-offs, the next game that they talked about was Metroid Prime Federation Force. Wow. What to say about this? This is quite possibly the biggest disappointment and tease of the whole event, in my opinion. We finally get a new Metroid game after, what, 5 years since Other M and 8 years since the Metroid Prime 3? And instead of a main entry in the series, we get a spin-off? What? What? That makes no sense. I mean, this would be fine if, there was a new main entry in the Metroid series announced alongside with it, but there wasn't. It's just this. Now, I noticed that during the Nintendo World Championships on Sunday, when they announced Blast Ball, I thought to myself, well, this looks a lot like Metroid plus soccer. And basically that's what it is, because it's going to be included with this game on the same cartridge, apparently. It's going to be like a mini-game sub-thing of Metroid Prime Federation Force. So it's called Metroid Blast Ball now, which to me sounds like they just shoehorned the name Metroid on there on this weird robot soccer game. And don't get me wrong, I have no problem with IPs and soccer games. Mega Man Soccer on the Super Nintendo was an awesome game in my opinion, but this is not that, and it has nothing to do with Metroid. And the sports game should stick to the Mario series. They've already got that established for years and years and years, since the 64 days. Even before that, I mean, even on the NES they had, NES Open, and Mario was in that. So why do we need to shoehorn Metroid into it? I don't understand that. And then Federation Force, we've got a little bit more info from some interviews with some of the development team working on it, but apparently Samus is going to be in the game in some form, but she's not, as far as I know, not a playable character, which is stupid. That's what Metroid is, That's like having a Zelda game without Link. Yeah, there was one of Gameleon, or however the hell you say it, on the CDI, but that's on the CDI. That system didn't sell anything. No one played that. And the only reason that happened is because of the Philips and Super Nintendo CD-ROM partnership that failed. So, Nintendo themselves have never made a Zelda game without Link, to my knowledge. So, and it's the same thing. It would be a Mario game without Mario. Yeah, there was Mario's Missing, and there's Luigi's Mansion, but Mario's Missing is not called Super Mario Brothers Mario's Missing. Luigi's Mansion is not called Super Mario Brothers Luigi's Mansion. This game, Federation Force, is called Metroid Prime Federation Force. So, by establishing that and calling it Metroid Prime, you would assume that, elements from Metroid Prime are going to be in the game, and one of those elements is Samus, and that she has to be in the game, and just putting her in like a little cameo, which is apparently what they're going to do from what I read, is not enough. That's pointless. I mean, why even bother? I mean, that's like basically what they did in Super Mario RPG back in the day. They had a little Samus thing in the corner in some random room. What's the point? That wasn't a Metroid game either, but neither is this. Just despite the fact that it has Metroid in the name. That's unbelievable. And a lot of people are really pissed off about this, and if you watch the trailer on Nintendo's YouTube page, it has, I saw today, it was over 34,000 dislikes on it, which is insane. I think it was only at 3,000 likes, so it has, over 11 times as many dislikes as it has likes. So obviously people are really pissed off about it. And you can read all kinds of forums and websites about that talk about the same thing, people being pissed off about it. Because they wanted either a new 2D Metroid or a new Metroid Prime or something similar to that. It doesn't necessarily have to be the exact same thing, just something that stays true to the Metroid format, but changing enough to keep it new. But you don't go and scrap everything that the series is known for. This is basically Halo with the Metroid name. That's pretty much what it is. They said it's going to have some single player, but they didn't show any of that. So either it's not ready to show, or it's not going to be substantial enough to even be worth mentioning. The main thing they showed was 4-player co-op, which is nice and all, but personally, I like single-player experiences in games too. So why can we not have, a more substantial single-player campaign? And that's what Metroid at its core is all about, is, isolation and being one person against a hostile world, and exploring. It's not about shooting and killing people and action and all that. It's an adventure. It's a first-person adventure. It's not a first-person shooter. It's not a third-person shooter. So why are they making this into Metroid Halo? I mean, they might as well call it Metroilo or something stupid like that, because that's basically what it is. And yes, I know Halo had a single-player campaign as well, but the co-op stuff that they showed for Federation Force reminded me a lot of Halo, I gotta say. And, that's all well and good, but if you already played Halo, you've already played it. And if you wanted to play Halo, you would play Halo. You wouldn't play a Metroid game to play Halo. And just like you wouldn't play Halo if you want to play a Metroid game. It doesn't make any sense. Why does it have to be exactly the same? And yes, I'm exaggerating a little bit. It's not 100% exactly the same, but it's similar enough to where it's not Metroid. And me and a whole lot of other people are very disappointed about the fact that they are doing this and are not giving us a main entry in the Metroid series. Like I said, we didn't want a spin-off. We wanted either another Metroid Prime game or Metroid Dread or something that stars Samus, that has a substantial single-player campaign, and that keeps the core elements of Metroid intact, but adds new stuff to keep it fresh. That's worked for years. Why are they gonna change it up? This game would have been fine if they just called it Federation Force. Then people wouldn't have been as pissed off about it, and myself included. They didn't need to shoehorn the Metroid Prime name on there. It just set people up for disappointment, basically. And I have a feeling the only reason they did that is to increase sales in the game, to try to convince people, hey, this is a Metroid game. Look, Metroid, Metroid, Metroid. But it's not. They need to stop pouring out the Metroid name and stick to its main concepts. And, we had Metroid Prime Hunters and Metroid Prime Pinball, which were spin-offs as well, and those were okay, but they weren't, as good as the regular main entries in the series, in my opinion. Moving on, we had another game that had already been announced previously, at least in Japan, and that was Fire Emblem IF, or IF, and it's been renamed Fire Emblem Fates for North America. And I like Fire Emblem, I'm a fan of the series, but we already knew about it. I mean, IF is coming out in Japan next week, I believe. So it's already done in Japan, it just needs to be localized for the North American and European markets. And it looks cool and all, but we already knew about it. Like the rest of the event thus far, has a been there, done that feeling to it. And I've read similar comments from people online about expressing the same thing that I just said there. Been there, done that. Speaking of Fire Emblem, the next game was Shin Megami Tensei Cross Fire Emblem. Now, I'm not really sure what to think about the Shin Megami Tensei aspects, because I've never played that series before, and it looks kind of strange, but I'm willing to give it a chance because it's done by Intelligent Systems, who has done the Fire Emblem series and the Advance Wars series, so they know their stuff when it comes to strategy. And I'm willing to give this a chance, but I'm not really sure what to make of it as of yet. I guess I'll just have to play it and see. But again, we already knew about that game. It had been talked about at a previous Nintendo Direct event when it had been absent for quite a while, but again, we already knew about it. Speaking of things we already knew about, Xenoblade Chronicles X was new, and we got a release date. It's coming out in December, and it's been out in Japan for a month or two, I think now. And it looks cool and all, but We already knew about it. E3 is about new games, not about stuff that we already knew about. Not about stuff that's coming out in 6 months or less. Not about stuff that's already out. Not about stuff that's coming out in a few weeks. Why do they have this obsession with talking about only stuff we already knew about? There's hardly anything that we didn't know about before the event happened. They better hold a Nintendo Direct event within the next few weeks to talk about, new stuff for the future for next year, and stuff that people actually want, and not the spin-off crap. Speaking of crap, the next game was Animal Crossing Happy Home Designer, and again, another thing we already knew about. Now, personally, I could not really care less about this than I did before E3, but in fact, after E3, I care even less about it now. I owned Animal Crossing on GameCube back in the day, and I thought it was okay, but I never really got super into it because it didn't hold my interest. And this seems to be more along the same lines, except focusing mainly on the home type of stuff, I guess. Basically, it looks like it's Animal Crossing Sims. If you like that kind of game, then I guess it's right up your alley, and I'm sure there's some people that are really stoked about it, but personally, I am not really that into it. Maybe I'm not the target demographic for it, I don't know. They could have used their development time that they spent on that, though, on something that would have wider appeal, in my opinion. Something that their core fans and audience are looking for. And speaking of Animal Crossing, we had another Animal Crossing game that was revealed. This one we did not know about before E3, but we probably didn't want to know about because it's Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival. And what is that, you might ask? Well, it's Animal Crossing Mario Party. That's exactly what it is. It could have been DLC for Mario Party and no one would have been any the wiser because it's basically the exact same thing, just with Animal Crossing characters and settings. At least that's what the trailer gave the impression of. And like Happy Home Designer, I don't care about this either. Like I said, Animal Crossing just doesn't really interest me. And I'm sure some people probably love the series, but to me it's just boring, and it's just basically, this game looks like a clone of Mario Party, and they just replaced the Mario characters with Animal Crossing ones. And it seems like a really bad use of the Amiibo brand when they could have done something cool with it, like a adventure type of game or something similar, or maybe even a JRPG. Nintendo, to my knowledge, has never done a first-party JRPG before. They have Xenoblade Chronicles and all that, but that's technically second-party. That's done by Monolith Soft. So, yeah. Anyways, the next game was Yoshi's Woolly World, and it looks fun and all, but again, we already knew about it. Why the hell do they keep talking about stuff we already know about? And they already spent like 30 minutes on it at the last E3 last year, and it's coming out in Europe and Australia in just a week or two, so the game is pretty much already done, and it's coming out here in October. October they announced, I believe it was. But again, we already knew all about it, and they spent like another 15 to 20 minutes on it in this event, and the event was only like an hour long, so that's like a third of the event right there, or a quarter of the event, something like that. They spent way too much time on it, especially considering, like I said, it's coming out fairly soon in other territories, which means it's already done. And like I said earlier, E3 is not about games that are already finished, that are nearly finished, or already released games. It's about games that will be coming out in 1 year, or 2 years, or 3 years. That's what they should be focusing on. You can do all this, stuff that's coming out soon at your Nintendo Directs or other similar types of events. You don't need to use E3, the biggest event in the industry, to focus on stuff like that. You need to focus on stuff for the future, stuff that will get people excited and make people want to actually buy the system. It's basically like they are saying, hey, don't buy Wii U, we don't have anything else in the future, this is it, we just have these few games you already knew about, and nothing's coming out in 2016 other than stuff you already knew about. So, why bother? And if that's the case, then that's really sad, because the Wii U had a lot of potential, and they could have done a lot more with it if they, just given it more of a chance, and if they had maybe given it a different name. I think that would have helped a lot as well. Because I know when it first came out, a lot of people thought that the gamepad was just an accessory for the Wii. They didn't understand that Wii U was a new console, and that you had to buy that to be able to use the Wii U games and the gamepad itself. And I hope for whatever NX turns out to be, if it's a new console or a new handheld, they go with a new name. No Wii, no DS, no Game Boy or anything like that. Come up with a brand new name that hasn't been used before. And don't go with the gimmick type stuff. Motion control was cool and all, and the gamepad is cool, and I like it, but it doesn't help when it comes to getting third parties to bring their games to the system. They need to make the control a standard video game controller and stick with that. And I'm sure they can find some way to innovate with that and still make it, Nintendo type of thing, but not alienate third parties at the same time. And the next game they talked about was Yokai Watch. Not sure if I said that correctly, but basically it's just a Pokemon clone. And that's nice and all if you're into that, but there's already tons of Pokemon games out there, and they're all pretty much the same thing with just, a few new twists and new monsters to collect, but, it's a lot of times it's the same basic thing every time. So what's the point? Why do we need a clone of Pokemon? And it's not really a new game anyways, because it's already out in Japan, and I think the third one is in development in Japan, and it's based on an already existing property, a manga, I believe it was based on. And this type of thing doesn't really interest me at all, and I think it's probably geared for a younger audience. So again, I'm not really the target demographic for it, but why are they spending E3 talking about that? I don't get it. Then they moved on to yet another 3DS game, and that is Mario and Luigi Paper Jam. Now, it might be cool and all, but personally, I would prefer a proper sequel to Super Mario RPG than more of Mario and Luigi or the Paper Mario series. Now, I like both of those series, but we haven't actually had a true sequel to Super Mario RPG ever. Immediately after that, we got Paper Mario, and then we got Mario and Luigi, and then it kind of alternated between the two of those. And now they're crossing them over into the same game. Even though Mario and Luigi Partners in Time hasn't even come out yet, I believe. At least according to what they posted on their Facebook page earlier today. I don't know if that's the right name or not. That's what it said in the image, so maybe that was for the European market, I'm not sure. But anyways, again, it might be cool and all, but I want a true sequel to Mario RPG. I don't want these reimaginings or these basically spin-offs. Again, that's been the theme of E3. Spin-off, spin-off, spin-off. Remake, remake, remake. Why do we have to do all this? Why can't we get new stuff? New main entries in series, not all the spin-off stuff. And yes, I know Mario RPG is technically a spin-off, but it was a good spin-off, and like I said, it needs a true sequel, in my opinion. Speaking of Mario, the next game was Mario Tennis Ultra Smash. Now, I don't really care about this at all because I'm not really super into the Mario sports games. I mean, they're fun if you have a group of friends together to play them, but by yourself, they're not really that interesting. And they're just boring in single-player games, in my opinion. And most of my gaming these days is single-player, so I'm not really interested in games that are focused primarily on multiplayer. But I'm sure there are some people that are excited about it, but me, not really. And I think this is a Wii U game too, and so they could have spent some of that development time putting out a Wii U game that would appeal to more people, that had a more in-depth single-player experience. I don't know why they're so obsessed with multiplayer at this E3 this year. What happened to all the single player stuff? Where is it? Who knows? Lost in Japan somewhere, I guess. I don't know. And then they talked a little bit more, well, not a little bit more, a lot more about Super Mario Maker. And it looks cool and all, but we already knew about it. I feel like I'm saying that 500 times, but that's what they've done the whole event, was talk about stuff we already knew about. And, I mean, this game is basically already finished anyway, since they're doing Best Buy events for it. So why are we talking about games that are already finished? What happened to talking about games that are in development and, like I said, they're coming out in 1 year or 2 years or 3 years? Don't talk about stuff that's 6 months or less away. Don't talk about stuff that's less than a year away. It just seems like it was a complete waste to even have a digital event at E3. Like, why even bother if you're going to talk about stuff that no one cares about? You could have done that in a press release. No one reads those anyways, so, geez. And, that was pretty much it. They closed out the event with a montage of people playing music from the Super Mario Brothers series on various instruments. And these are just random people. And I think they had a few Nintendo employees in there as well, but mostly random people. And apparently they're doing some sort of thing for Operation Smile, I believe, which is a good cause and all that, and it's, a good charity and all that. They want you to send in videos if you're doing Super Mario type of stuff, I guess. And they're going to donate to Operation Smile for, I guess, every video sent in or something like that. But E3 is not the place to talk about that kind of thing. It's nice and all, and like I said, it's for a good cause, but that's not the right place to talk about that kind of stuff, in my opinion. And like I said, that was pretty much it. Their big stars, for this event were already announced games and spin-offs to existing franchises. And in my opinion, this show was a major letdown, and there's a lot of others that, from what I've read online, that agree with that opinion. And like I said, I know they had said ahead of time they weren't going to show Zelda U, but couldn't they talk about it briefly? Couldn't they had, like I said, an interview with Miyamoto or Aonuma or both of them? Why don't we have a new main entry in the Mario series? People want Super Mario Galaxy 3 or Super Mario Sunshine 2. Where are those? Or better yet, just a new game in general. Mario 3D World we just had a few years ago, yes, but it wasn't a proper main entry in the series as far as I'm concerned because, again, it was focused on multiplayer. It was basically shoehorning the new Super Mario Brothers brand into a single-player Mario game. But again, it was focused on multiplayer. And it was fun and all, but it wasn't a true single-player Mario adventure, in my opinion. And speaking of stuff we haven't seen, where's Advance Wars? We had Battalion Wars and all that on the Wii and GameCube, but that was done by Kuju, and Intelligent Systems has been so busy with Fire Emblem apparently they've forgotten all about Advance Wars. Why can't we get a new one of those? Those were really fun, and they were good games, in my opinion, and I'd like to have another one. Why can't we get another one? The last one was on DS several years ago, I believe, so that goes to show you how long it's been. And like I talked about earlier with Federation Force, why can't we get a new main entry Metroid game? Why do we have to have a spin-off? And where are the new non-rehash IPs? We had Splatoon that was talked about, last year, and it just came out a month or so ago, and that's cool and all, but where's more? They don't have to make 20 new IPs or anything, but it'd be nice to have one. And no, Yokai Watch doesn't count, as like I said, it's based on our existing property, at least in Japan. And plus, it's basically just Pokemon with different characters. And speaking of Metroid, what's Retro Studios been working on? Are they working on a new Metroid game? Are they working on a new Donkey Kong game? Are they working on something else? Are they working on nothing? Who knows? they haven't talked about it. Now, personally, I hope they're not working on another Donkey Kong game because we just had, Tropical Freeze last year and Donkey Kong Country Returns 3D, the port / remake, the year before that, and we had Donkey Kong Country Returns itself on the Wii back in 2010. So we don't need another main entry Donkey Kong game for at least a few years. They should be working on Metroid. If they're not, I'm going to be or something new entirely. If they're not, I'm going to be very disappointed if they come out and say, hey, look, here's another Donkey Kong game. Yay! More Donkey Kong! Yay! Give me a break. You thought the reaction when they unveiled Tropical Freeze a couple years ago was bad? If they unveil another Donkey Kong game again, by Retro, people are going to be pissed. And even more pissed than they are about Federation Force. Just wait and see if that happens. And other, series that we haven't gotten main entries for in quite a long time are something like F-Zero. They had the mini game in Nintendo Land, and that could be fleshed out a little bit, made into a full game. In my opinion, it would be pretty fun. But are we getting a new main entry F-Zero game? No. What about Star Tropics? That hasn't been seen since the NES days. Why can't we get a new one of those? What about Wave Race? That would look awesome in HD with the water effects and everything, which the series is known for. Why can't we get a new one of those? What about Punch-Out? We had Punch-Out on the Wii, but that was, again, a remake with a few new characters and such. But we haven't got an all-new Punch-Out game since the Super Nintendo days, if I remember correctly. What about Golden Sun? What's Camelot been doing? Are they only focusing on Mario sports games now? Are they doing nothing? Are they working with someone else? What's going on? Why can't we get a new Golden Sun game? All of those games could use new entries in their series. But instead, we get nothing, except for spin-offs and remakes. And this is coming from someone who's been a Nintendo fan for nearly 30 years. Instead of shoveling existing franchises and characters into spin-offs, they should just create new characters and settings for these spin-offs, and at least then it wouldn't be watering down great franchises, like Metroid and Zelda, for example. And they focus way too much on 3DS, and not nearly enough on Wii U. It seemed like they basically forgot the Wii U even existed. It's like, oh, here's some games you already know about for Wii U, and here's a bunch of stuff you didn't know about for 3DS, but it's stuff you didn't really want anyway, so who cares? If they have any hope of catching up in sales to their competition with Wii U, they have to focus their first and second parties mainly on that. They can't just say, well, we're going to coast and what's there is there and that's good enough. Unless they're going full in on the NX. And to me that seems to be pretty clear from this digital event that that's what their main teams are doing. They've switched to development for the NX. And I would not be shocked to see Zelda U be delayed to come out at launch for the NX, like Twilight Princess was on the Wii. And they might release it on Wii U as well and do like a simultaneous type of release, but I think it's going to be delayed even further than it already has been, whenever NX comes out. But all in all, this is a very lackluster E3 showing from Nintendo, in my opinion. And like I said earlier, why would they even bother having an event? Because they talked about a bunch of stuff that no one cared about and stuff that we already knew about. All that could have been accomplished in press releases. Or just uploading trailers to their YouTube page, which they do anyway. And they would have gotten, the same effect from it because, again, it's stuff we already knew about and stuff that no one cares about. Well, not no one. I'm sure there's some people that are excited about it. I'm exaggerating a little bit for effect, but you get what I'm saying. It's not stuff that most people were interested in. And you can tell that by just looking at the reaction online at all kinds of various websites and forums and social media. People are pissed about the lack of any worthwhile, in their opinion, games, and worthwhile in my opinion as well, because the main game that I saw that I was interested in that I didn't really know a whole lot about was Star Fox, and Star Fox, technically we already knew about it. And yeah, and there's Mario Maker, yeah, and there's Yoshi's Woolly World, And I'm interested in both of those, but we already knew about them, and I was already going to get them before E3. I didn't need E3 to convince me to buy them because I was already going to buy them. And same thing with Star Fox. I was already going to buy that. And Xenoblade Chronicles X, I'll probably buy that too. I didn't need to know more about that. Same with Fire Emblem Fates. I was probably already going to buy that too. I don't need to know about games I already know about that I'm already going to buy. Again, why can't we focus on new main entries in series that people are wanting? It's like they said, well, screw you fans, I don't care what you want, this is what you want, and you're going to like it, and you're going to love it, and if you don't, well, too damn bad. I don't get it. I hope for their sake and my sake as a Nintendo fan that they right their ship and realize that they royally screwed up and that they need to announce some games that people are actually wanting and actually interested in. I guess we'll just have to wait and see if they do or not. Because so far, they're not. And that's a shame. Well, thanks for watching and thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time at Nintendo Games Now. Hi, this is Jeff from Nintendo Games Now. Thanks for watching our video. If you liked it, feel free to click the like button or subscribe to our channel for more great videos like this one. And we also welcome any feedback you might have in the comments section that you can find right below this video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time at Nintendo Games Now.